Okay, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with the world leaders in American oil and gas, and really I could say the world leaders, period, when it comes to energy and American energy, biggest companies anywhere in the world. I want to thank Secretary of the Interior, David Bernhardt, Secretary of Energy, Dan Brouillette, and Ambassador Robert Lighthizer for being here. We're also joined by Leader Kevin McCarthy, Senators John Cornyn, Kevin Cramer, Ted Cruz, and Dan Sullivan. Thank you all. These are people that really want to see good energy at the good price. With us as well are Greg Garland of Phillips 66, Dave Hager of Devon Energy, Harold Hamm of Continental Resources, Jeff Hildebrand of Hillcorp Energy, Vicki Hollub of Occidental Petroleum, Mike Summers of the American Petroleum Institute, Kelsey Warren of Energy Transfer Partners, Mike Worth of Chevron, and Darren Woods of an extremely small company known as ExxonMobil. Well, it's smaller today than it was 4 weeks ago. By about half, right? That's all right. It'll be better than ever. Today we'll discuss the impact of the coronavirus on American energy industry as the pandemic brought on by global economy. I mean, it's an incredible thing that's happened. Nobody thought this was possible. We had the greatest economy in the world. Probably you were doing, all of you, the best ever. Everybody was doing the best ever. And then all of a sudden they said you have to shut down the country and they have to shut down the world because the whole world shut down, not the country, the whole world shut down. 151 countries, probably it's higher than that now. That was as of a week ago. So the entire world is shut down trying to get rid of this scourge. And we'll do it. I thought what I might do is go around the room and you just introduce yourselves to the media real quickly, and then we'll have a discussion afterwards. You know, our $2.2 trillion relief package includes provisions to allow businesses to deduct their losses this year against taxes they paid in previous years, which gets you a lot of liquidity. And a lot of companies need the liquidity right now. And hopefully we're going to be back in business very soon. We're going to be open very soon. This country wasn't built to be closed. And essentially we have a closed country. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like this, but this was, I was with some of the leading professionals and they say, not since 1917 has there been anything like this. 1917 was a time when I guess you could say 50, 75, or 100 million, you hear different estimates, people died. Think of that, 100 million, maybe 100 million people died. So they had no communications. They weren't able to shut things down like we are doing. But that was a plague. That was a plague. Started here, actually went to Europe. We were badly affected, but Europe was really affected. So that was the worst. And so not since 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, has a thing like this happened. I just want to start by saying it's an honor to be with you. I know most of you one way or the other. Some of you I know, but I know all of you by seeing you on the covers of all the business magazines and the magazines. And you've done a great job, and we'll work this out, and we'll get our energy business back. I'm with you 1,000%. It's a great business. It's a very vital business. And honestly, you've been very fair. You've kept energy prices reasonable for a long period of time. We've got a long period of time with very reasonable energy prices. So I want to thank you all for being here, and maybe we'll start with Mike, please.
All right, Mike Worth with Chevron Corporation. Mr. President, proud of the work our people are doing to support healthcare providers, first responders, and all the other vital industries that keep our economy going. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mike, very much. Appreciate it.
Vicki Hollub, Occidental Petroleum. Thank you for allowing us to be here today, and thank you for all you're doing for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vicki.
Dave Hager with Devon Energy, or an independent oil and gas company out of Oklahoma City, and thank you so much for the leadership that you're providing during this challenging time. You're the right man at the right time to balance all the priorities, and we're going to be back. Thank you very much.
We'll get it done, Dave. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, Greg Garland, Phillips 66. Again, thank you for great leadership through this pandemic crisis and all that you've done on the stimulus package, really for the American economy. I'm proud of our employees. They're working to provide energy and improve lives.
We think it's going to come back quickly. It's ready. We're ready, and we've got the right packages out there. So
we need it to.
Very good. And we're looking at I think we're going to be really looking very seriously at a infrastructure package where it's so important for our country. You know, as of this moment, Darren, we have $7 trillion plus in the Middle East. For what? For what reason? And we don't put money in our own country. So we're going to do a big package on infrastructure fairly soon, I think, and that's very important. And it's great for you, great for everybody. Darren, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Darren Woods, ExxonMobil Corporation. I'd like to add my thanks for your leadership in this space as well, and say I think all of our companies here are aligned with your objective, which is to get the economy moving and to make people's lives around the world better.
Good. Great job you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harold Hamm, Chairman of Continental Resources, also out of Oklahoma City. Thanks for having this meeting. I think this is so timely and necessary. Really appreciate your leadership. Also the friendship that you've kept with the Saudis, the Saudi Crown Minister, or Crown Prince, and also Vladimir Putin. I know those hadn't been easy sometimes, and at this time it was particularly needed. So I represent our company as well as the DEPA, Domestic Energy Producers Alliance, and we're about 10,000 companies and individuals, mostly independent producers.
That's great. Great job you're doing. I think President Putin and the Crown Prince want something to happen badly. It's certainly terrible for them what's happening too. So they want to see something happen. I've spoken to both of them, and we'll tell you about that in a little while. Okay? Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff Hildebrand, founder and chairman, Hilcorp Energy. Our distinction is we are the only private company here. This is a company that's based in Houston, domestic only exploration and production company. And I'm really here today to represent the independent energy companies, the family-owned businesses that are in this industry, and to give you really that perspective and add to the conversation in that regard. So thank you for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Great job. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kelson Warren, Energy Transfer. We're the only pipeline company, and so we try to do business with everybody in this room, and I think we successfully do, actually. So it's an honor to be here, sir, and it's an honor to be in this room with these folks as well.
And everyone loves that guy, right? We all do. Thank you very much, Kelsey. Great job you're doing too. He's not an oil and gas man. He's a wonderful person and a wonderful politician, and he wants to see the industry get strong again. So, Kevin, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, first, I want to thank you for doing this. Just by you reaching out to President Putin and the Crown Prince, things have improved. You're looking around a lot of jobs, but what else you're not seeing at this table, a lot of these are small businesses that work with all these individuals around here. And your action today with signing the CARES Act, getting the small business loans out, is going very strongly because it's needed. But the American economy, greatest strength is what energy provides us. You provide us at a good price. These are great jobs, but more importantly, it also gives us energy independence. It changes the whole dynamics around the world, and so I thank you for the leadership of what you're doing.
Thank you, Kevin. And as you just said, Bank of America in particular has really, of the big banks, has really stepped into it. They have done a fantastic job today. It's over the
10,000 in the first 2 hours.
Bank of America has been unbelievable, and I want to thank them. I want to thank all of the community banks and the smaller banks that have been loaning a lot of money. Paycheck. It's all about the paycheck, and that nobody would have believed it could have gone so well. So it's just a number of hours, but the numbers are far greater than we would have anticipated. So it's been really great, and thank you to all the banks. But again, in particular, Bank of America, they really stepped right up, and they did it. There were no big deals. They weren't making a big deal out of anything. So that was terrific. And I think what we want to do, John Cornyn, please, I know how you are so involved in this, coming from the great state of Texas. Would you like to say a couple of words, John?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for convening the meeting. Many of us have been talking together, but we can't get done what needs to be done. Only you and the administration can, and particularly getting the attention of the Saudis and flooding the markets, really adding insult to injury in a time when our economy was suffering anyway because of the coronavirus. And so this meeting could not be more timely. I agree with what's been said about the importance of affordable energy to our standard of living, and really we've changed the world as a result of the production of domestic energy here and improve the quality of life for a lot of people.
Thanks very much, John. Really good job. And John agrees. We were talking about it the other day that you've all done well, but you've also kept energy very affordable. Really, very, very affordable, and a lot of it. We never had any problems. So we're going to keep it that way. Do I see Dan back there? Dan Sullivan? I was looking. I thought that looked like Dan.
I want to thank you for convening this meeting. You know, under the Trump administration, working with the Congress, the U.S. has become the world's energy superpower again. It's unbelievable. And these companies have done it. Obviously, it's a very important issue in my state, the great state of Alaska. But these are great jobs, as John Cornyn just said, for all of our states. But it's really important for the national security of our country, too. And we have been, a number of senators have been reaching out, having frank discussions with the Saudis, saying, hey, if you're a longstanding ally of ours, we're not, right now, you're hurting a lot of our citizens. You're hurting a lot of the people we represent, and you shouldn't take us for granted. We have a great military that's protected Saudi Arabia for decades, and Senator Kramer and I have some legislation that could possibly change that if they don't start to cooperate. So again, we appreciate your leadership with the Crown Prince, with the Russians, and calling this meeting. But this is a great sector of the U.S. economy that once we get through this, and we will, this pandemic, this sector is going to take off again. And your administration and you have had a lot to do with the strength of the U.S. energy sector, and we need to keep it strong.
Thank you very much, Dan. And Kevin Kramer, North Dakota. People don't realize how big a producer North Dakota is, right?
Harold knows. Yeah, Harold knows. So do a lot of the others around the room. Mr. President, to echo everything and maybe add a little bit, the people around your cabinet table right now are part of the renaissance of oil and gas in this country. But since you became president, we went from a renaissance to security, to independence, to dominance. And that dominance and that security right now are in some danger. Just a quick example, in North Dakota, since Saudi Arabia and Russia announced their little price war, we've had $6 billion of CapEx taken out of our state planned for this year. Yeah. I was economic development director when the entire gross domestic product of North Dakota was $13 billion. Yeah. So that's significant. That represents not just CapEx, that represents lots of jobs, lots of people in the value chain. And I would just add one word to what Dan talked about with regard to Saudi Arabia. It is estimated by one report in 2018 that we spend a minimum of $81 billion defending global oil supplies. We can use that money in national defense and other hot spots in the world if our friends are going to treat us this way. So appreciate your outreach this week. I think we're halfway there just with the success of your diplomacy this week. Thank you for this meeting.
It's gone up, and we have to, otherwise we lose a lot of jobs too. We're talking about one of the big job producers anywhere, Kevin, right? Would you have anything to say?
Mr. President, thank you. I'm Mike Summers. I'm President and CEO of the American Petroleum Institute. The folks around this table represent the American energy revolution. And we want to thank you for everything that you've done to support that revolution. And we want to make sure that revolution continues after this pandemic crisis is solved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that. Senator Cruz. I think he's around here.
Ted can't be seen.
He's hiding.
Apparently he joined the press.
He's gone over to the evil side. What are you doing?
Mr. President, thank you for convening this meeting. This is an important meeting, and this is a time, as you know, of crisis all across the country, a public health crisis and an economic crisis. As you've heard and as you know from everyone around this table, the energy sector has been a huge part of the economic success and boom that we've enjoyed over the last several years. And the combination of the economic harm of the coronavirus crisis combined with the Saudis and Russians waging economic warfare on jobs in this country, it's been a perfect storm in the energy sector. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of jobs, there are millions of jobs in Texas and across the country that are represented by the men and women around this table and by energy producers, and there are small producers throughout Texas and throughout the country who are on the verge of being driven out of business. And so this meeting, I think, is important. Every one of the senators in this room has had multiple conversations with the Saudis, leading in hard on the Saudis, and your leadership and diplomacy with the Crown Prince had a big impact getting them to stop flooding the market and taking advantage of this crisis. And I would underscore one other issue that a number of the folks around this table have raised I'm very concerned about, is ensuring that those in energy in this time of crisis have access to capital. There are jobs that are hanging in the balance, and if the energy producers in this country that have made America the #1 producer of oil and gas in the world can't access capital to get out of this crisis, we're going to see bankruptcies at a level this country hasn't seen in decades. And so this meeting and the continued leadership of your administration is hugely important, and thank you for it.
Good, thank you very much, Ted. And while you're up, the concept, and for instance, I think we should say it in front of the media, but oil reserves, storing oil, we're filling up the national reserves, as you know, and we're getting the oil at a great price. But at these prices, in fact, Kevin and I have been speaking about it, John and I have been speaking about it, at these prices, you would think you'd want to fill up every cavity that we have in this country. And there's some areas in Louisiana and other areas that could be filled up. They hold a lot of oil. But at these prices, and it would be good, it would keep everybody working, but you would think you'd want to fill up those areas. What do you think of that, Ted?
Look, I think that's exactly right. I think it makes sense in terms of easing the pressure that is threatening these jobs, but it also makes sense for the taxpayer.
Yeah.
That Strategic Petroleum Reserve is there in times of crisis, and usually the way the federal government works is we buy when it's expensive and we sell when it's cheap.
Wow.
We actually have an opportunity now to buy when it's cheap. I think it was inexcusable that Democratic leadership in the House and Senate blocked that in this bill we passed last week, and I think Congress needs to go back and address it.
It was in the bill.
Yep.
And then the speaker came in, and that's the one thing when she held this bill up for the number of days that she removed.
$20 oil, think of it, $20.
Well, and there are too many Democrats
Politics.
that want to see these jobs go away.
I think you should go back, though, Kevin. I think you should go back and see, John, if you guys could go back and do a separate bill. And beyond that, I think it's 75 million barrels right now to fill it up. That's not that much. So it's fairly in pretty good shape. But we have other areas that are bigger, frankly, that we could fill up too. But at those prices, we should be pumping it out. So maybe you guys could check on and see what you can do about. I don't think anyone can reject it. Nobody can reject it. Ted, you'll work on that?
Absolutely.
I think so.
Anybody else? David, you guys okay? David, you want to say something?
So just one thing, Mr. President, the Department of the Interior manages a large portion of land and part of the offshore. And one of the things we've done over the last 15 days as you've had the slow the spread, we have really had our inspectors out on the front lines working to make sure that the production that's taking place is occurring in a safe and a responsible manner, and thank everybody for their cooperation in that. These jobs are so important to the American people, and it's important that we make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's too.
He's the biggest landlord in the country. Meaning it's called Interior. Interior is a lot of land when you look at it. Thank you. Great job you're doing. So, Dan?
Mr. President, thank you. Thank you, sir, for
Thank
your
you, Dan.
leadership. My name is Dan Verriette. I serve the President as the Secretary of Energy. With regard to the storage, Mr. President, happy to announce we went to market this week for 30 million barrels. Notwithstanding the desire of the Congress not to give us new money to pursue this idea, we have found an alternative financing mechanism so that we can
I figured you would.
find.
I actually wasn't worried about it.
So that we can
What
find.
are you paying per barrel?
I'm sorry, sir?
What are you paying? You want to hear
It's going to be a little low.
What are you paying per barrel? A flexible price, or what?
They may be paying us. It's going to be a little low.
So we're going to go negative, like interest rates, negative.
But Mr. President, I just wanted you to know, and for the industry players who are here, we are moving very aggressively. We're using every tool that we have at the U.S. Department of Energy, not only to provide immediate relief for this particular industry and the economy itself, but also to look for technologies that over time will reduce the cost structure for the entire industry. So we're moving on as aggressively as we can, sir. Thank you for your leadership.
Dan, check out other areas where you can store oil.
Yes, sir.
And there's some very big ones, bigger than what we have now. And at these prices, you should do it.
Yes, sir.
We fill it up, right?
Yes, sir.
Fill up the tank. Okay, Bob Lighthizer, you've been so great, and this isn't your meeting really, but Bob has done some of the best trade deals ever done in our country, and one of them is it actually kicked in on April 1st, and that's with China, and I hope they're buying a lot, I hope.
I don't go to say anything. I'm here to answer questions, Mr. President, so I'll just keep my mouth shut. But the trade deals are working. China's good. We're on track with USMCA, but I'll just answer
He's
questions.
very shy. That's good. He just wants to make deals, that's all. And you've done a great job. Thank you very much. We will have a news conference at about 5 o'clock, 5:15 maybe. And so we'll see you in a little while. We'll answer questions. But this is a great group of leaders. And we've got to make sure that we preserve and even make greater our energy industry. And I want to thank all of the senators and congressmen, the boss here, for being here and for working so hard. I'll tell you what, they are calling me constantly. They want your industry to be successful, and they're going to make it that way. We're all going to make it that way. So I'll see you at 5 o'clock, and same place. We look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Let's go, guys.
Would anybody like to be tested? How about you? Do you want to be tested?
I would love to be tested,
Uh-huh.
actually. I think all of us
We might be able to do that. Here's a great question. No, you know what? I like it. Let's test these guys. They gave us millions of jobs. Listen, they gave us millions of jobs. If anybody wants to be tested, we'll test you. I want to test the head of Exxon.
We've been tested.
We were all tested.
We should test.